Hi, this is Andrzej and this is the Hornet. I titled this video, well, actually, I don't know if that's what I'll call it, but I can say it now. I've never liked the Hornet, seriously. But there's a longer story behind that because, in fact, the fact that I didn't like the Hornet changed my life. Honestly, a little short personal story. My first big motorcycle was a Hornet, a 1998 Hornet 600, the one with the 16-inch front wheel, because I couldn't afford a sport bike like the one I dreamed of. So I kept searching, trying different things, trying. And finally, I came across the Hornet. It had an engine from the CBR, a naked type body, and used ones were definitely much cheaper. The only thing was I didn't really like the way it looked back then. Looking back at it now, I actually like it because the bike was so classic yet sporty at the same time. Round rear light, high exhaust. Overall, the bike looked really cool, but I was 19 at the time. I wanted to be as sporty as possible, the most Street Fighter-like. So what happened? I started looking for where to buy, one of those Street Fighter fairings, which ended up making the bike look really ugly later on. And I found this motorcycle forum where I started asking about it, and the motorcycle forum turned into the Stunt Poland forum, and that's where I met guys, stunters from all over Poland. And that's how I started doing stunts, and then I started writing about it, and then I got a job as an editor, and then I bought Schwat Motocicli, and today I'm here. All because I didn't like the Hornet. So we could discuss that, but actually we won't. You guys will probably talk about the look of this motorcycle in the comments. But what I have to say right away is that there are things that make this motorcycle look pretty cheap, because it simply is cheap. We'll get to that. 35,900 zlotys. So somehow they had to make it work. So honestly, that's definitely why they use this 160 millimeter wide tire, not wheel, because the rim is narrow, and this rim is probably found in some other Hondas. That's probably also why the suspension is that only one fork leg has damping, and the other fork leg has the spring. Because it sounds cool, separated, balanced fork, like it's something amazing, and in the end it can be great. But then you start thinking, hey, actually, that's also why it's a bit cheaper. The brake master cylinder, which to my eye looks like it's about 30 years old. I had the exact same one on my Hornet. It even has a spot here for a mirror from some other models. We joke that there must be a separate warehouse somewhere in Japan just for these Nissin master cylinders. And you'll find a few more things like that, which make it clear that in this motorcycle, well, there are cost-saving measures just to keep it affordable. Fortunately, all the plastics, when you touch the bike here and there, well, all of that actually sounds good. Nothing creaks, nothing squeaks, all the screws are well. That's at Honda level, and there's nothing to complain about there. Oh, and one more thing, stickers. These are stickers applied directly onto the paint, not clear coated over. In fact, there's no clear coat at all on this tank, which you can clearly see. As a result, it got scratched up pretty badly over time. Someone here must have had a pretty aggressive jacket. As for the second thing, well, the one that gets the most criticism, it's the engine end. Ironically, the engine is actually the best part of this motorcycle. This engine has a displacement of 750, 2 cylinders in line. This is one of the best, if not the best, inline 2-cylinder engines I've ever ridden. And honestly, one of the best motorcycles overall. Motorcycles, engines you can put into a lightweight, fun, naked bike. Period. End of story. The footage will show you. At one point, they kind of went a little crazy with this motorcycle. It would ride on the rear wheel just like a motocross machine. It would go brap. And in first, second, and if you really try and give it some throttle, even in third gear, you can shift through the gears with that brilliant quick shifter, which works both up and down. Bang, 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 it shifts the gears down, up shifts quickly. And suddenly it turns out that this motorcycle's throttle response is just about perfect for a bike you want to have fun with. You want to rev it, shoot out of a corner, that torque is there instantly. It's just there right away. Even from the lowest revs, from 4,000 RPM, you really start to feel a solid pull. I spent the whole day driving it between 4 and 8,000 RPM, and only occasionally did I venture above 9,000 RPM, where there's still a bit more power. I mean, 8,000-9,000 is where you get maximum power, but the thing is, you can rev it up past 10,000 and it'll still keep pulling. But I didn't do that because the mid-range is so strong that you just go BBO BB way and keep riding. And the sound, by the way, there's an engineer who's responsible for the sound. And honestly, it's shocking how this motorcycle can sound, because when I think about other twin-cylinder Hondas, like the CB500 and so on, the sound there wasn't exactly impressive. In fact, it was completely bland. But here, it really, really sounds solid. I hope that comes through in the video. The fact that it doesn't have 4 cylinders, seriously, I know I'm also a fan of 4 cylinders, and I saw a cool comment somewhere that I used to say something different about 2-cylinder and 4-cylinder engines. Once again, just to be clear, a 4-cylinder engine like in the CB650R and CBR650R, which you can also find reviews of on our channel, is a brilliant engine for beginners. But for those who want to have enough power when they need it, they are linear, accelerate smoothly, don't bite at low revs. In the mid-range, they just accelerate, they're gentle. And when you rev them up, the power comes in and the bikes are actually quite fast. This is a motorcycle that gives you a sporty experience, but in a fun way. Just twist the throttle and it happens right away. Honestly, for me, in my opinion, a 4-cylinder engine is better for beginners than this one, because this one can really get away from you. We can adjust the throttle response with different maps, but we can never reduce the power or torque. So contrary to appearances, this motorcycle isn't really for complete beginners. I mean, anyone can handle it in the end if they have some sense. But here, when you twist the throttle, this motorcycle just goes, it can get a bit wild. And a few times today, it got the better of me. I was in control, but got carried away by the excitement. It was like, whoa, come on, more, whoa, and so on. So just to be clear, 4-cylinder and 2-cylinder bikes are simply different from each other. I'm a fan of 4-cylinder engines simply because I grew up with them and it's a bit of nostalgia for me. But when I look at this engine today and think about having an engine like this in my Hornet, the one I learned to ride on, it seems to me that I would have learned to ride faster. I mean, my progress would have been faster, especially when it comes to tricks and stunts, which were actually quite important to me at that time. What completely sets my old Hornet apart from this one is the chassis and suspension, because here we actually have a real chassis and suspension. That frame was just so flimsy and delicate, and the suspension was so weak that it would constantly bottom out, and I kept breaking things all the time. The motorcycle handled nicely, but it wasn't a sport bike. This one still isn't a sport bike, but it's capable of going very, very fast. At first, I mean, you know, the problem is that when I feel the engine's potential, I immediately want to go faster. I want to go faster. I want even more, just like all my buddies here. And then I say, hey, the suspension is too soft. Actually, it could be stiffer. Yeah, it could be stiffer. But at the same time, this is a motorcycle that's supposed to be just as comfortable. And, you know, Honda tried in some way and actually managed to make a motorcycle that is very, very, very versatile. One you can use in a really wide range of applications. So for really hard aggressive riding in the mountains and the track, yes, the suspension is soft. When I was riding this motorcycle smoothly, it never bothered me at any point. Problems or problems. You know, that feeling that it's too soft, too flimsy. That happened when, for example, I pressed the brake too hard, and actually I did it on purpose to see how the motorcycle would react. It's a pity there's no adjustment, at least for the preload, because I think that even just replacing the spring here with one suited to my weight would already make things better. We adjusted the spring in the rear shock absorber by 1 turn. It got a bit stiffer, and you could immediately feel that the motorcycle was a bit more stable at high speeds. Now I'm looking at this handlebar, and that's another thing that looks cheap. Not much material was used here. It looks like the tube from a shopping cart. So I would also swap out the handlebar for one that I simply liked. And I think I'd move it a bit forward as well. You know, it's like this. When you sit on this motorcycle, it just feels like sitting on a couch. The seat is low, comfortable. The handlebar sits like this. And with this kind of couch, you can actually go really, really fast. Honestly, at certain moments, I honestly didn't even see the point in leaning over, you know, getting your knee out or anything like that. You just sit on the couch. What I would do is simply put in a higher seat, move the handlebars a bit forward so I could put more weight on the front. The biggest downside is the electronics. And Honda knows about it, and Honda doesn't care about it at all. The ABS is way, way too aggressive. You really have to use the brakes smoothly, because today I had 2 situations where, you know, I'm riding, right turn, whoosh! I want to quickly switch over and had to brake a bit to transition to the next one. And on a light front, I press the brakes and suddenly the ABS kicks in. I'm like, damn, why? Seriously, why? The ABS kicks in way too early, way too fast. I get that it's about safety, but in situations like this, it's not really about safety at all. Personally, I just wouldn't really call that a true measure of safety at all. Traction control, I thought it was going to be fine. The thing is, on the first level, I gave it some gas. The bike actually let the front wheel lift a bit. And I thought, damn, that's awesome. Because for those who can't do wheelie stints, a lot of beginners will probably get on this bike. They'll be able to feel that it gives gas, it accelerates nicely. But when the wheel lifted too high, because I wanted to hold it a bit longer, the traction control kicked in really hard. You know, the bike came down aggressively. And for a second, there was this lag on the throttle. It didn't want to go. And only then did we keep riding. So again, the traction control is just too aggressive. It lets you do something, but well, just barely. Too much safety, and it's not actually that safe. It's not. Also, keep in mind, and I have to keep this in mind too, that this is a motorcycle that costs 35,900 zlotys. And if I were to compare it to the competition, I'd have to say, wow, it even has traction control, which is surprising and really impressive. Because after all, if someone is just starting out, it's nice to have traction control so that if you get carried away, whether it's wet or not, there's something there to save you. And the gauges are just as nice, colorful, and you can even change the layout and color here. Unfortunately, every time we turn off the ignition, we have to deactivate the traction control again, but it's pretty quick to do. We don't have to dig deep into the menu. We just go into user mode and so on, click, 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 and traction control is already off. Interestingly, we also have sport, standard, and rain modes. And at first, you know, I immediately thought I'd ride in sport mode, but honestly, for normal riding in the 6,000 to 8,000 RPM range, I actually like the standard map more because the power is always the same. And it seems like the standard mode is actually tailored specifically for this engine. Everything is perfectly predictable. And in sport mode, in the mid-range RPMs, when you give it gas, there's this subtle feeling, you know, like the engine wants more than it actually can. Like it suddenly gets a shot of something and it's like, oh, let's go. Okay, I'm going. Hey, cool. When we were riding on a stretch where we were revving it to the max, trying to keep it above 8,000 RPM all the time, then sport mode was fun, really super responsive, but in the end, not actually any faster than standard. So I spent the whole day in standard mode. Besides that, we can adjust the engine braking force, which is completely useless, but you can do it. Honestly, I have no idea who would need that. That's something you use on the track, and even then, not everyone actually bothers with it. But, well, it is certainly there. So overall, the Hornet's absolute strongest and most defining point is precisely what has always been its most significant and enduring strength. It's a fun, playful motorcycle that's capable of really fast riding, but at the same time, it's comfortable, so you can take it on a trip. Well, it's just the kind of Hornet I remember, except it has 2 cylinders instead of 4. So sorry, if you need 4, go for the CB650R, which is actually kind of funny. This motorcycle has a better power to weight and torque to weight ratio than the CB650R, because I actually haven't mentioned its power yet. It's 92 horsepower and 75 Newton meters. I'll write it more precisely in the magazine, and all that with a weight of 190 kilograms. So, you know, it's like this. You can buy this motorcycle and at first you look at it and, as Mariusz says, it's totally bland, but it will simply be whatever you want it to be. That's how it is. I agree with Smok that you look at it and it doesn't really excite you. At one point I even said that it must have been like this. Someone said, let's make an engine. So the engineers were like, okay, boom, we're making an engine. Let's go all out. And then the whole motorcycle ended up being designed in a more extreme way. And then, hey guys, calm down. It's supposed to be, you know, more toned down. The character of this engine is truly sporty and even a bit devilish, crazy. And the rest is just, that's it. I've really talked a lot. Thank you very much. Best regards. Bye.